in a trajectory to cause Earth a problem. We have Trojan asteroids in our own Earth orbit that are ahead of us and behind of us, but they're at what we call limits that allow them to be equal between the sun's pull and the Earth's pull. They're called Lagrange limits. And so they don't move much relative to Earth, so they're not catching up to us and we're not catching up to them. So there are all kinds of near-Earth objects that can be threatening given, destabilizing events. A close pass from another planet or a gravitational wave from the center of the galaxy would certainly be destabilizing events. What we do see, though, is governmental agencies preparing for something. The emergency alert system, which is the emergency broadcasting system on steroids. It allows them to take control of all media with the exception of the internet and cell phones, is going live November 9th of this year, the same day that MU-55 is at its closest to Earth.
Now, if the elites knew that this asteroid was going to hit with this trajectory, I would imagine they'd deploy nuclear weapons to space, which we know they can do, and knock it out or put astronauts on it to intercept it and put thrusters on it. Or could they use something like this asteroid to hit the Earth and use that as a distraction from the financial collapse that they're basically engineering? That's my issue, is that you're right. We see giant FEMA underground bunkers being built. We see the U.S. spending more than all other countries combined on underground base programs. But you go to Switzerland, they have underground bases for their entire population that are public for a statistically much smaller price, for their population. So what's really going on here in the U.S.? The Russians for a decade have been behaving like it's the end of the world. So I kind of get torn in both directions. I'm sick of hearing that every new asteroid or comet's going to kill us, or that there's some giant planet that nobody can see that's going to hit us, and I'm covering it up because I won't talk about it. But then separately, governments everywhere and corporations are doing big seed vaults buried in the Arctic Circle and armored compounds. The elites are building bunkers at their own homes. That's confirmed. What do you think they're getting ready for?
Well, I think they're getting ready for an event like that. In fact, just last Wednesday in Pasadena, there was another workshop. This is the third one in a very short sequence of time, dealing with near-Earth objects and an Earth-based response, like you had talked about a few minutes ago. Shooting it out of the sky, breaking it up, pushing it off course. These things are being considered, and it's a $48 million a year budget. So they're very serious about taking some steps toward heading off a statistical encounter of an object with Earth.
So we're always under threat. There could always be super volcanoes like Yellowstone go off and kill pretty much everybody in North America. We could be hit by a giant asteroid. It could cause a 100-year ice age. I mean, anything could happen. But the big issue you're concerned with, and I do agree with you, that the evidence is there, governments are snatching up food, seeds, building bunkers, arming themselves, and then saying anybody who tries to individually get firearms or food, we're bad, but they're good for getting ready for something. Why do you think they're putting out that particular line of propaganda, Doctor?
Well, I could be misinformation. We see the messages that are put out by NASA to their own employees. Get yourselves ready, have an escape plan, don't depend upon the grid, don't depend upon cell phones, get your families together. We care about our family and your extended family. And these are just, emergency readiness messages that go out to their own employees. Add to that the fact that we do see NASA's budget being cut on traditional programs like exploration of the moon, exploration of Venus, and yet we see scaling up of programs to deal with near-Earth objects and atmospheric disturbances, and even solar flares. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, the Department of Defense completed a study where they determined that all 500 installations in the United States are vulnerable to a grid interrupt from a solar or a geomagnetic storm from the sun. So they're taking measures to head that off to try to remain secure during those events.
Now, you've also been a leading researcher and expert into HAARP, and I know that that's real and is involved in all sorts of manipulation, weather manipulation, over-the-horizon radar, you name it. But Doc, how does HAARP tie into this?
Well, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project started out as a minor research instrument based on the North Slope of Alaska. It grew into a multi-level, high-powered weapons system and weapons communication system because it was so effective at moving the ionosphere around, which allowed them to manipulate the jet stream, which allowed them to manipulate weather. It was very good at doing a sort of CAT scan of the Earth, so we could look for reservoirs, so we could look for bunkers beneath the soil, beneath the ground. We could analyze deep strata in the Earth, and we could even evidently put in long wave, high amplitude radiation into the ground and induce earthquakes. So it became the perfect weapon system with no fingerprints. As if it's not scary enough that we have something like that, most of the major countries have HARP systems as well. And when all of these are in operation, it really throws weather and Earth stability into chaos.
Well, that was my next point. I've seen the Eastman patents and the rest of it that you're talking about with HARP, the U.S. version. But then meanwhile, in Dubai and other countries, they don't even deny that they have it. They just come out, build it, set it up, and start making it rain in the desert. But then undoubtedly that's having all sorts of other chain reaction effects around the world. We have the Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, back in '97, saying, yes, there are tectonic earthquake weapons. There are weather weapons. The question is, are they using them? Bill Gates has moved away pretty much from even computers into weather modification, into forced inoculation, into really all these new super technologies. Doc, do you agree with my point, though, that all of the fearmongers that are constantly putting out books and saying the end of the world is next week or next year, that they actually serve the system in getting people to feel powerless because the world's going to end next week? We saw there's a preacher who back in the 90s said the world was ending. He comes back out and says it's going to end. He said it was going to end on May 21st. Then it didn't end. And so next it was going to end later in the year, and then the media gives this attention. What do you think's working behind this? Or is it some ancestral memory in humans of mega disaster, and so is that why we get so excited about it?
Oh, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. It's, of course, the economics behind generating fear and getting people to send you money so that you can save them somehow. And it's also maybe a primordial record that all ancient civilizations have, that there was a global flood and that it could happen again. We do have a fossil record of a very prolific and wide range set of species that lived on this planet long ago that don't live here anymore. And that may not be the only civilization that's lived on this planet. Maybe there were highly advanced sentient races like the Sumerians and Anunnaki and others before them that lived on this planet. There's evidence they existed and sort of an echo of their existence. So, of course, we have global communication now, which allows us to get these fears around the planet in a matter of moments. And whatever people will resonate with will generate a big response.
Well, I have to tell you, Mr. Agnew, we appreciate you joining us, and I hope that we're going to be here for a long time. I know I'm going to just continue going through my life as if I'm still going to be here next month or next year, because we've got to try to continue the human species. We all individually die, but through humanity we live on forever. Do you think humanity in your gut is going to make it to a type 1 civilization? For those that don't know what a type 1 civilization is, obviously that means a species that gets off world and isn't just bound to one planet. Do you think humanity's going to make it?
I think we definitely have a chance. We've been at this precipice before. If we learn to live as a planet, we can definitely do this. I don't know what it's going to take, but I can tell you the things we're clinging to now, fighting over land, over water, over energy, is primitive compared to where our mindset is. If we could overcome that, if we could learn to live beyond our fears and not be so jealous of one another, not try to own everything or control everything, and realize that we're on this planet together and that we can explore the universe as a race, I think we can make it. I think we do have the skill, and I think there are lots of people that believe that, and that's what it's going to take.
Well, we started this section of the show tonight, dealing with the fear mongering, the establishment trying to put the idea in that it's the end of the world, Jesus is coming back, don't get involved, or it's 2012, the Mayan calendar. But I think it's important to be balanced. Certainly, we always are on the edge of destruction, but we're also on the edge of even greater things. And I think this has been a very interesting discussion, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And of course, we've had on screen throughout the interview your news website and foundation. Are there any other sites people should visit?
Well, my latest book, Remembering the Future, The Physics of the Soul and Time Travel, is at the same website, rememberingthefuturebook.com, and you can pick that up. It basically says that we do not have to march down the path to Armageddon. We can choose a new future. There are an infinite number of them, and all we really have to do is focus on that, and we can walk away from this path of annihilation.
I agree with you. Doctor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, my friends, that's it for another extremely powerful edition of Infowars Nightly News. And when the system tries to teach you that you don't control the future, that you don't have any input into the future, it's a lie. The social engineers want you to sit on the sidelines and not be involved in the arena of reality. None of us control all of the future, but we can certainly set about to shape the future instead of letting the globalist social engineers completely write the maps of our minds. They are simply putting up walls in our minds, trying to keep us in a box and try to create this self-fulfilling prophecy that we're all doomed, so why should you try to make the world a better place? And all the studies show that then creates an attitude of eat, drink, and be merry, screw your neighbor, cheat somebody, get ahead, who cares, because it's all going to end anyways. That is a very, very destructive attitude, and people in Nazi Germany thought that Hitler was the Antichrist. People in communist China thought Mao was. It is just continual cop-outs, and the New Agers, the Christians, everybody has just got to stop it. Again, thank you so much for watching tonight. Please spread the word. We've got an extremely powerful 9/11 special tomorrow where we look at the 10 smoking guns that prove 9/11 is an inside job. Big report Aaron Dykes has been working on all week. Richard Gage on tomorrow. A bunch of other key intel tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. And, of course, I'll see you on the radio/TV, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., of course, weekdays. At Infowars.com with the radio show and on AM and FM stations in your area, as well as XM and global shortwave WWCR. I'm Alex Jones, signing off from the front lines of the Infowar. Great job, crew.